What if pain relief didn't come in a pill bottle, but in a light?
And this really is the inflammation buster, which means you don't have to take your Advil or your aspirin or whatever, Tylenol, to get rid of the pain.
And this is Contagious Influencers of America. I'm David Sams. Today we're talking with someone who's, his story is going to stop you in your tracks. Tom Kerber grew up in a Christian home, built a great career, and from the outside, he seemed to have it all together. But a fall off a ladder onto solid concrete left him with debilitating back pain for years. And from that journey, he launched SunPowerLED, a company using light-based technology to help people find relief, healing, and a fresh sense of purpose. Now, this isn't just a story about technology. It's about resilience, faith, and the powerful truth that even in our darkest times, there's always light. So in just a moment, we'll get to my interview with Tom. And I cannot wait for you to see this, but I just want to give you a heads up. I am going to do something really special at the end of this podcast related to this interview. So I want you to stick around because it's going to be so well worth your time. But first, let's get to my interview with Tom.
This podcast shares personal opinions and experiences with a red light therapy tool for informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, nor a substitute for professional care. Results vary, no guarantees. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your treatment.
So, Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I really couldn't wait to have you on, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But first, before people say, I don't know who this guy is, I've never heard of him, he's not a big name, he's not on the charts, he's not on the New York Times bestsellers list, why should I listen to him? Let's just give people a couple of minutes as to what value this interview is going to bring to them.
Well, I think it'll bring health to your body, a very good shot, whether it's your body or somebody that you know and love or some friend. But we have light technology that surpasses all types of light technology out there with the amount of optical power that we have. So what that does is means we can reach deep inside the body, whether it's shoulder pain, knee pain, ankle pain, to kidney problems, to lung problems, right up to stuff that's going on in the brain. So anywhere on the body, we're using light. And as one of the friends said, we're using the light that God designed, and we're just using a piece of that. Now it's more powerful, than the sun, but the sun was well designed in the first place.
So, is there any part of the body or any place in the body you can't use this?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
So we've got people from the bottom of their feet to the head of their to growing hair to brain stuff, anywhere in between.
And what is this? Without getting too technical, then again, I want to keep people here. Okay, so we'll get into the technical side of the story here in a little bit. But what is it about what I'm holding? And this is one example of one of your products. What is it about
there
this?
You go.
There you go. What is it about this that is going to really, truly have a major impact on my life?
Okay, so the light can penetrate really, really deeply because I've got so much power behind it. So when I turn this thing on, you can see the light going right through my hand right now. And that's the red wavelength. And we have another two devices. This happens to be 810 nanometer, but that, if I measured what's going through your hand with a proper meter, I'm looking at anywhere from 10 to 30 times more energy coming through this almost invisible light. And that's because your eyes aren't tuned to pick this up. But that light will go incredibly deep and supercharge the cells to do all sorts of things. across the body, no matter where in the body. And so just like a tree absorbs certain wavelengths of light and makes the tree grow, our bodies can actually absorb certain wavelengths of light and tremendously heal the body in all different aspects. And I'll get into some of those examples. But people don't realize that a long time ago, they used to have solariums on hospitals to put people out in the sun, in the room with glass walls, so that they could get the effects of the sun. And when antibiotics and some of the other things came along, they turfed that idea of using the sun. But we basically have something much more powerful than the sun in certain wavelengths coming out of this device.
It's also great for special effects.
There you go. Exactly.
By the way, just to illustrate how powerful this light is, look how it lights up the studio in back of me. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yep.
Or I try this effect too. Is this going to give me more brain cells?
Absolutely. No, I'm serious about that. I don't have the unit in front of me right now to be able to demonstrate these. I got a real human skull, and we showed the light going right through the skull. So it has no interference. There's a little bit of drop of energy, but the skull allows the light to go right into your brain, and we can reach inner parts of the brain with certain wavelengths of light and make a difference.
Okay, I'll tell you my story, all right? Because and just so we're very just upfront with everybody here, Tom and his company, they are sponsors of a radio show, and that's how I came about knowing about Tom and about his inventions. And we had a chat one day, and I'm like, man, I really want to try this thing. So your staff sent this to me. And you know what? It's sat in a package for a couple of weeks. It's like you have to have a reason to use it.
Terrible.
But a couple of weeks ago, I was working really late, and I was upstairs in my office, and I have a swivel chair with one of those things you do sit on your butt when so your back doesn't get sore, but for sitting all day. And I got so tired, I literally fell out of my chair. I don't know, it was probably 12:30 in the morning. And I went right down on my tailbone. And now I did break the fall just a little bit with this hand, but I want to tell you something. I was sore, and I went to bed that night and I go, this is not going to be good. I woke up the next morning and I was in pain. And I'm like, man, I'm going to go get that thing that Tom sent me and put it on me. So I had Shelly Ann, my wife, put this on me. And you have very good instructions as how to do this. And I put this on me for, I guess it was about total of 15 minutes or so. It was, you can explain the different settings, but I want to tell you something. This is not like, oh, maybe I'll get better in a week. I immediately felt the difference.
Yep.
And I then used it again later that day, because I think the instructions that you had was either 3 times a day or something along those lines.
Yeah, up to 3 times a day. No.
Yeah, I want to tell you, the next day I woke up and I've had no pain since. I mean, it's remarkable. And now I started walking a lot. I used to walk a ton, and then I got COVID 3 times, and I lost my appetite for walking. Well, I'm finally back up to about 3 miles a day. But I'm a tall guy, and it puts a lot of pressure on my body, and I feel it basically in the back there. And I've used that thing probably daily now for the last week. It's amazing.
Yep.
I don't have to take I used to be, I can't really take Advil anymore because I've got heart conditions and so forth, and it interferes with meds. I'm using this thing, and I don't have to take anything. So it's miraculous. It really is. Um, I'm just I can't say enough about it. So I cannot wait to get into the science of all this and how you made this happen. And I know you have several of these machines now. As a matter of fact, there's one right next to you. Isn't that the one you put over your head?
Oh yeah, this one over here. So this is a helmet, which is 10 of those guys there. And you just put it over the helmet like this, and you just full awkward from this angle. There you go. So that's the red right now. And what we do is people use this for 1 minute of the red and switch it over to the near infrared, which is the wavelength right now. You can barely see it in the picture there in the video, but that's the red and near infrared. And we've helped all sorts of people with different cognitive issues. And it's phenomenal. Like it sounds crazy, but we can help across the board with all kinds of cognitive issues with that. Like, and that's a 4-minute treatment. It can be done once a day or twice a day or even 3 times a day, but significant improvement. Ideas being some autism, Parkinson's, strokes, concussions, TBI, traumatic brain injury, all those kinds of things. What's common about it, one of the is inflammation in the brain. They call it neuroinflammation, and we are basically the new inflammation busters, a spin-off of the Ghostbusters. We're the inflammation busters.
Yeah, I know a few football teams that could use that about now. They
They
They need all the help they can get.
They would probably, yeah, it would be great. Part of the challenge is they don't necessarily want to acknowledge that they cause trouble during their training or playing the sport.
So, Tom, before we continue here, I want to break away for a minute and just show this video as to what viewers can expect with your invention.
Sure, sounds good.
15 years back, I realized that light could make a huge difference on the body. I ended up designing this very powerful light using LED technology. With this amount of very high power density, it can reach through the tissues and travel right to the joints. But the key is that the power density and the area is extremely important to deliver that light into that. The mitochondria receives that light and converts that energy into the cell. So it's like giving the cells super high octane fuel, and they run like a jet, and they're able to do all the things for repair in that. What are the products we have? Well, we have a small device, which is actually large when it comes to light therapy. You have a fairly large area of light and a high power density that can be used for different parts of the body, like your fingers, shoulder, back, neck, knees, ankle, anywhere on the body. And then we have what's called the mini canopy, which is about 1 foot square in size. And then we have our full-size canopy, which is basically 6 of the mini canopies. And then we have another device, which is the helmet, and that device can help for mental issues, for brain injuries, for concussions, for PTSD, TBI, all of those kinds of things. And there's new research out there that shows it could be helpful for not only strokes, but dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and just different brain issues. Our plans are to move this technology into every area of the world where there's pain and inflammation, which is basically everywhere, and to expand that so people understand all the applications where this technology can be used to help them in their health in the body as a wellness device. People are looking for how they can treat themselves without drugs.
So, Tom, let's talk about the science behind this. Okay, I see these red light advertisements, these stores that pop up, but you really designed something here. I mean, this is a powerful tool, and this is not a toy, by the way. You know that.
So my background is 45 years of electronic design. I've designed all kinds of things that is used out there, even in other parts of the world. Radio communication gear for transmitters, you name it. But all of these things usually came back to somewhere along the line power. How do you get rid of the heat that the power makes? So you being an audio guy, you would have seen the old amplifiers that used to have the big heat sinks on the back of that. That's what I need on the back of this thing is the aluminum heat sink on the back to cool this thing down. And I believe God gave me an idea as to how to get much more efficient in removing the heat. So now this thing becomes very, very light. I do still have a fan in this thing. It's a very specific type of fan, but the design is such that I have a patent pending on how I'm able to cool these LEDs. And so it's very, very easy for the all the Chinese companies out there that are supplying these red light therapies to put their units over a large area. So like their LEDs. So they may put LEDs on a panel that's a foot square, but the amount of LEDs is pretty pitiful. And as far as the optical power, the amount of energy that's coming from it, you would have to squeeze that down to this little device to start getting the same kind of power level on many of these devices that are out there. So a big panel can't help you if you got a shoulder injury. It can't help you if you got an area on your back that needs the energy. You need enough energy to penetrate really deep. So, depending on where you are, you'd probably travel somewhere, Kentucky or whatever, where you go up a long hill. Well, if you had a 4-cylinder pickup truck with a fully loaded bed, you may not get up to the top of the hill. You probably die halfway up to the hill with that pickup truck. But if that was in 8 or 12 cylinder, you'll go right up the hill, no problem. We have the 12-cylinder machines, not the 4-cylinder or 2-cylinder putt-putts out there. All the other stuff is really low power compared to what we have. So we have a lot of optical power, and with more light power, you can go deeper. One other example, if a person's not a mechanic or driven pickup trucks, but if somebody falls overboard on a dark night, on a ship, on the sea, and they try and find the guy, they could pull out light sources. They could pull out a candle. It gives you light, and try and find the guy overboard with a one candle. Useless. Now compare that to the 50 million candle power searchlight that you can see the guy a mile away. Which one are you going to use for the searching for the person? Are you going to get the Amazon one with one candle in it, or are you going to get the 50 million candle power kind of thing? So that's really what we've got here. We've really poured it in. We've got FDA registration. It's a medical device, is what it is. And so rather than a person spending $30,000 for a medical device, I'm trying to get this into the hands of people at a fraction of the cost. So we're looking like a $2,000, $1,000 device or $2,000 device, but it really has the power of some of the medical devices of $30,000. And that's what we've done. We've really figured out a way to drive LEDs. And that's the thing. Some might even hear about lasers, but even with lasers, we actually end up a lot of times having more optical power than most lasers that are out there. And, years ago, the whole cities were lit up with incandescent light. Now the technology is to light the whole city up with LEDs. Well, because of those developments and the reduction of cost, now we can get these high power LEDs with lots of LEDs, concentrated LEDs. So you get a very concentrated beam of light that comes out of our device.
So let's talk about the power of this tool. So when I turn this on and I put this on my body, and you can see here
the red,
how powerful it is. I mean, that's amazing. Look at all that light. What is that? Let's say I have a pain in my arm. What's that concentration of light capable of doing?
So we have enough power out of the device that you have right now to reach to the center of the hip. So we can, if a person has sciatic hip pain, we can get there with that light. If they have shoulder pain and they can barely move their shoulder or can't get movement out of their arm, we can help reduce the inflammation and the pain in the joint. And whether that's it can be caused by all kinds of things, arthritis, osteoporosis. There's all sorts of reasons why you could end up with inflammation in your shoulder, or hey, you got tooth problems, you got the abscess tooth. All of those kinds of things, you can reduce the inflammation. Now, God designed the body that there is a requirement for inflammation. If you didn't have the very first thing, if you go and hit your head, on some object, or you do something to your knee, the immediate thing is inflammation jumps in. Inflammation is absolutely critical it's kind of like, guys, come and help me. We got a problem here. Call 911. That's the rescue signal that the body those cells in that area are sending out is, come help us. That's inflammation. That's the real purpose for inflammation. After that purpose, the inflammation needs to go away by your body. And, when we were younger, when we're really young and everything else, everything works better in our body and faster. So you do something, it heals faster. You bump yourself, the pain goes away faster. As you age, and this can happen with young people too, it's diets, there's all sorts of things, your inflammation does not leave the area. So you end up with, instead of the acute phase, now it's chronic. So it goes on now you were able to help yourself right away in the acute phase. So, as soon as your body said, hey, help me, I need to do a little repair here. David did something stupid. So the inflammation starts, but then as soon as that inflammation gives all the signals, come help me, makes the phone calls, 911, come down and help me. Then you want to get rid of the inflammation as quickly as you can, because then the healing process can begin. And once you get rid of the inflammation, the pain goes away. So inflammation and pain are tied together. And this really is the inflammation buster, which means you don't have to take your Advil or your aspirin or whatever, Tylenol, to get rid of the pain. This helps get right at the area you do. So it's a non-pill form of getting rid of the inflammation and the pain in the area.
So you've been an inventor for some time, and my understanding is that in reading your story, you had a real reason to do this. You had a wait, I believe I read you fell off a ladder at one point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, many talents in design, but many talents trying to fly off a ladder and without wings. So I wasn't the Wright brothers, but I came down and fell off the second floor height onto concrete. And I'll tell you, that really is upsetting. They say the fall never hurts, it's the landing. Well, I landed on concrete, and I'll tell you, I injured myself, my lower back, L4, L5, and I didn't break anything. But then every year, 2 years, I'd go and do something. I'd pick up a paper clip off the floor. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I would be in pain for 3, 4, 5 months before that would finally subside. And, once you have had injuries like that, it's hard for the body to ever fully recover. So I still do things once in a while. Sometimes it's stupidity. Sometimes it's just not thinking or whatever. But I might, pick up a piece of paper off the floor at an odd angle. But the difference is now that instead of 3, 4, 5 months chiropractic, physio, and all that, I may have that pain come on, but within a few days, that pain is substantially less, even right away as soon as I use the light. but also then within 2 weeks, I'm almost back to, a human being with just a little bit of soreness or whatever. And then within a month, I'm good. So but the very first time I didn't believe that light could do anything on the body, like as far as to help. And I was working on my computer. I had made a very powerful light for another doctor for another application, which we could or couldn't get into. It doesn't matter, but a really cool application too, where we use light to activate a drug for a very specific application. But I happened to just get the light back from him because I needed to do some kind of adjustments to the light. And when I got it back, the timing was perfect, not likingly perfect, but I picked up something, and all of a sudden that happened to me, that severe pain. And this was the first time I had ever made such a powerful light for this doctor for his application. Had nothing to do with pain and inflammation, but I made this very powerful light. So I thought, what if I put it on my back, try it, see if it does anything? And I was pretty skeptical even trying it. And when I put it on my back, my pain probably was working on my computer. It was probably about an 8 out of 10. That's when the pain is screaming at you. It's hard to concentrate, but you still can do something. Okay. 10 out of 10, you're laying in bed. You can't even get out of bed, up in there too. But 8 out of 10. And I put this light on behind my back. It was a fairly large light, about this big at that point in time, bigger than the one you have. And it was water cooled. So it actually had so much heat coming off of this thing. I needed to have water running through it, just like a car radiator. I had like a small radiator. I had all the cooling, everything that needed, so I could cool these LEDs. That's how hot these LEDs, how much energy, how dense they were. And I had made that for him. So I thought I'd try it. And I went in, I put it on my back, and in about 20 minutes, I thought, this is crazy. And I started moving a little bit. You're pretty, sedentary, just in a certain position with your back. And all of a sudden I'm starting to move, and I'm like, what the heck? And I get up very slowly because I'm used to what happens to back pain. You get out of a chair nice and slowly so you don't do anything. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can almost touch my toes. So the pain went from like an 8 to a 3 in 20 minutes. And I really thought at that time, that's about, say about 17 years ago now, I really thought at that point that every chiropractor, every physio, everyone would want this light. And unfortunately, there's a strong push for a pill that goes on for the rest of your life, not solutions like I had, or adjustments for the rest of your life to keep the pain off, until you get better after a couple months. So some groups like chiropractors and physios, they'd love to see the 30 treatments over the next couple months.
Right. Believe me, I've been down that road too. It's like, here, we have another package for you, and go into this room, and this machine does this and that. And it's like, by the time you get out of there, it's,
Yeah, not only have you dropped a lot of money, but maybe it happens. There are some really, really good chiropractors and physios, and yeah, they bought the light off me, but there's a lot more that aren't so interested in this technology.
well, let me ask you,
Unfortunately.
let's talk about some specifics. And before we, I'm real big on, just being on the up and up on things. And so let's talk about the claims that you're going to make. And let's talk about the disclaimers that we have to go with. Who has approved this? I mean, this isn't just some toy you put together in your garage and you're, selling it on the black market here. I mean, you've gone
Yeah.
through the process to make this thing as legit as you possibly can. You've gotten, I've read what you've gone through to make this happen. So let's just spend a couple of minutes. Let's just spend a couple of minutes to talk about that, and then we're going to get into some of the actual practical uses for it. Okay.
Yeah. Ask away.
So let's talk about any disclaimer that we have to make to the audience right now. Let's go ahead and make it.
Okay. All right. So I'm not a medical doctor, and I know nothing in medical, and but I've chummed around with a lot of doctors, so I do understand some things. But and I can tell you about the technology, and it can help a lot of different things in the body. Not cure anything. We're not talking about curing anything, but don't be surprised if your problems seem to go away after a while. And you can have all kinds of things on your body. Definitely, if you have any concerns whatsoever, check with your doctor. But probably 99% of the doctors know zip about this technology, and they may even suggest certain other things that are not in your best interest.
Hey, I'll tell you. I'll tell you when I walk into the doctor now, I usually go in with my 30-page report from ChatGPT or Grok. They hate it. They're like, we don't want to look at that. I'm like, hey, you know what? I feel like one of those guys in the early years of the Bible where they didn't want you to have a copy of the Bible back when the Gutenberg press, that era. It's like, no, unless you're a priest, you
Right.
can't have a copy of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
too much. It
exactly.
was too
That's a
much.
good.
They didn't want to put that power in the hands of the people. And realistically, it's the same way with the medical profession today. Therefore, I have a lot of doctors that are dear friends. I have a lot of doctors that are great, but we've all been through it. So let's just leave it at that. I want to talk about some of the practical uses of this now, because I've heard some unbelievable stories. And let me just throw a few things out at you, okay?
Go for it.
Let's go with a big one because you brought up autism, okay? I mean, come on, you got to be kidding me. This helps with autism?
I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have known too much about it, but if somebody goes to our website, SunPowerLED, and looks on the research tab, they can go to the thing that there's a research page where it shows a PBM database, and there's 7,500 research articles all on light therapy. So if somebody really wants to get into the weeds and, want to know how and why and whatever, it's there. But it's still a very growing interest level in more research. But as I mentioned earlier, there's also a lot of pushback because in the universities and that, because they get a lot of their funding from big pharma. So don't expect, if you got a very specific condition, that you will find a research article on it. But there's plenty there to show that this can work for all kinds of things.
Let's talk about autism, man, because I've seen a couple of your stories, folks that you've worked with. I recently saw a video that you all provided me, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about a particular story. Obviously, we're not going to name names here, but let's talk about a particular story where you've absolutely seen a change in a positive direction as it relates to a patient, or they're not your patient. Let's just say a person with autism.
Yeah, so we got on the YouTube channel, we got some YouTube shorts there. So people that go to YouTube channel SunPowerLED, they can witness it see it themselves first time from real testimonies. But two of the people are both spellers. They don't have verbal, and for them to be able to be more regulated. They call it dysregulated when they're so wired they can't stay still for 5 seconds. They're always moving. They've got real challenges trying to process things, and for them to come down a notch or 2 or 3 where they can start thinking more clearly. And that the one woman, a young woman, she actually used her speller And she said to her mother asked her, "Do you want to keep doing these treatments under the helmet?" And she said, "Yes." Now that's the only word that she has, that she knows can say yes. But she said the word yes, but then her mother said, "Well, what do you think it's doing?" She says, the young woman said, "Well, I can think clearer because of this." And she spells that out on her speller. And I'm listening to this um, and then her mother said, "Well, how would you try and describe that to somebody else who has no clue what it means to think clearer?" She says, "Well, I would say it would be like somebody who's totally deaf and for the first time can hear and understand whispers."
Wow.
But one of the boys was 4 years old and a non-speaker, like nonverbal, and after they said there's no way they could calm him down enough to put the boy, get him treatment, but they decided to do him while he's sleeping. So they did about 20 minutes of treatment while he was sleeping. They only had the single unit. If they would have had the helmet, they could do it in 4 minutes. But they had the single unit, so they have to put this like 10 locations on the brain with the red and the near infrared light, kind of so that you cover the whole brain. And they did that at night. And the next day, he started babbling, and in a week's time, he started coming up with some words. So that now that effect was lost after it was only a week that they had the light, because the doctor who I'm working with was with them and had the light at one of these state conventions. So he only had the light. They only had the light. So after the thing was over, he had to come back, and they weren't prepared yet to buy a device. You understand, they got a lot of expenses on their hands. So, but in about it lasted for about just over a week. The effects, that there was good effects. So that was another kid. Another kid, the parents were elated that the kid, they could actually get a better sleep because the kid slept through the night, where they normally keep waking up, and that'll destroy a person. As a parent, that'll destroy your brain, just your own brain, waking up all the time because your son or daughter is waking up. But just a better rest. So those are even from one treatment, like one shot. That there's, what we believe is happening is all these different kinds of conditions, including autism, have a connection to inflammation on the brain. And anytime you can reduce the inflammation in the brain is going to start working better. So that's why even in one treatment.
And we're referring to the, as far as autism, the helmet, which is right in back of you.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you just put that over your head, and okay, all right.
And then it's 1 minute of the red, and then 3 minutes of the near infrared is what our standard protocol that we've seen has been very helpful. And that goes across the board, whether we're talking strokes, concussions, traumatic brain injury, super duper anxiety. We had a study done, for those that don't think this is valid. Come on, that's just anecdotal. Where's your, we're hoping that it'll open up to more studies. But we need research dollars to do that. And there's connections that are opening up for us. But there was a study done in West Virginia with opiate addiction and depression, and it's published out there on one of the journals. But it shows that they started with 50 people, and half the people got treated with a helmet twice a week for 4 minutes, actually 3 minutes of light, because they didn't use the bright red. Anyways, they used twice a week, and the 25 that got the treatment were far less depressed. They were far less anxious. They had a better outlook on life. They weren't craving the drugs the way they were. So they were able to do all these measurements through this analysis deal, and show that there was a significant improvement and those that only got the treatment twice a week for 3 minutes. These were people that were already incarcerated for their drug addictions. So pretty major to see how this can reduce war vets. We got a war vet that super anxiety and depression, and he calls it his happy helmet because he's feeling great. Like it's total what he's been suffering with for decades is now totally gone.
So let's talk about the big one, arthritis.
So arthritis, yeah. So arthritis again comes back to an inflammation in the joint. And although we may not eliminate the arthritis, one of the big problems is, you have to take drugs to get rid of the pain so you can move again. But then the long-term effects of drugs, your kidneys and other parts, organs, and you just started with one drug. Now you've got to add another drug to it because you got a new problem. Then you got to take another drug because that one has side effects, and you go down this rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you're on a half a dozen drugs because you got arthritis. In this case, you put the light on the knee or the shoulder, and all of a sudden you can start moving it again. And when you can start moving it again, yeah, some people will see very quick effects, and others it might take a month. But hey, a month and not having to be on pills for the rest of your life, how much better is that? To the crazy cases where we've had people with some kind of issue and they do one treatment and the pain is gone. One guy was limping for 19 years, one treatment, and the pain was gone. So what it does is it helps the body to reset the nerves in the area. So the nerve is, even though the real reason for the pain is gone, your nerve is still firing. I got pain here, and you can't shut it off. So this helps restore, kind of like pushing the reset button when you got Windows and you used to have the blue screen, right? So now you push the reset and the body finally gets back to normal in that area. So that does happen. But I love it when we can affect people with all kinds of other issues like tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how people pronounce it. It's ringing in the ears. And we got about 3/4 of the people that have used it have a significant improvement, and the other quarter, no change at all. But how would you like to be in the 3/4, category and have this racing noise or ringing or whatever? You saw the helmet. So my friend who's does the scientific research paperwork that I need for the government, he had tinnitus that, he'd be sitting there and all of a sudden, boom, this ear would start, that high pitched frequency would be in his ear. And he says, I couldn't even hear with the phone put against my ear. That noise was that loud in his ear. And within a week, that noise was totally gone. He traded his work for my helmet. So he got a helmet. And he says, Tom, I can now, that noise when it comes on is like a 2 out of 10 instead of 8 or 9 out of 10. It's that much lower, so he can concentrate. But the spin off of that, he didn't think of. He was more interested just in the ringing in the ears, was that he ended up with having a tremendous sleep. He says, I chart my sleep pattern all the time with my watch. And he says, I'm going to put the data together. It shows that after I started using the helmet, I get into so much deeper sleeps. And I feel more rested in the day. So he's not dragging. We've had a number of people that have had significant improvement in their rest because of the light, whether it's the palm light or whether it's the helmet. And then seizures is another area too that we've been able to help with. So one guy is seizure free for 2.5 years. Migraines. Oh my gosh, we got people that were serious migraines. I got, you'd have to check through all the videos. I got so many videos up there. But a woman that from childhood was suffered from migraines, and they just kept getting worse and worse, where it was kind of like every other day she had a migraine, and debilitating, very debilitating. And then to have that totally gone, you know, vertigo, you know, not being dizzy, feeling dizzy, cleaned up. So treatment on the ear. Eyes, we've been able to help people with eye problems of different kinds, eye health. And I believe only God could do this. Like, it's not, I just come up with some technology, but somehow he's using this technology. So I got a 95-year-old woman who I got the interview with. She was totally blind for a whole year, could not see anything. And she had a retinopathy issue with retinopathy, and 95 years old, could not see anything. Zip, no shadows, no nothing. And in 10 days using the light, was able to see her daughter's face for the first time in a year.
Now, hold on. Are you're not suggesting people put this in other eye, right?
Under one condition, closing the eyelid, and then close your eyelid, do 1 minute of the red, 1 minute near infrared. And the dosage that actually comes through your eyelid is beautiful because it's very uniform, no hot spots on the back of the eye on the retina. It's pretty bright on the 1 minute of red. If you put the red on and close your eyelid and put it on your eye, yeah, that's
That's how relevant.
and yeah, so 1 minute of red and 1 minute of the near infrared. And we've had people with different types of eye complications improve amazingly. Like I said, she saw for the first time, and she was able to see so well that she was able to see the jersey numbers on the, she's a hockey fan, so she was able to read the jersey numbers on the back of the players. We've had, I got another guy in that motorcycle mechanic in Colombia that was totally blind for 3 years because of diabetic retinopathy. And his cousin treated him and for 2 treatments, and then he had to go away on a trip, and he was able to start seeing shadows after the second treatment. And then he went away, came back, and got a few more treatments in a row. And he said, "You're wearing a blue dress with white flowers on." And that's what she was doing. She was wearing a blue dress with white flowers. And I've got a video of him on my web on the YouTube channel of him driving a motorcycle down the street, turning around and coming back. Now, I don't know the last time you've seen somebody blind driving a motorcycle, but I don't think it's very possible. And he's regained his sight well enough that he's now back to working full time as a motorcycle mechanic.
Mm. Well, look, the stories that you're telling are amazing. Of course, a lot of them are on your website. You have a lot of videos there on your, I guess it's the YouTube channel they have. What's the YouTube channel again?
Yeah. It's SunPowerLED, or at SunPowerLED. And please remember to subscribe. And if you like one of those videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button or the like button, because that helps us to get our exposure way up in the internet, in the YouTube channel.
Well, let's talk a minute about, I know you're a strong man of faith, and I want to talk about that a minute. And because I mean, you're talking about modern day miracles here with some of these people. Okay.
Yeah, he's doing it.
Anyway, and in any way you cut it, these are modern day miracles. So let's talk about how faith has really been a strong part of your path, and a strong part in developing this product.
My faith journey is in March of 1980, in first year university. I ended up until that point, I was definitely going in the wrong direction in my life. That I was very much involved in the party scene as a young kid already, 14. We would drink quite a bit. And so when it came to March of 1980, I was in first year university for engineering. And for the first time, I was doing very, very poorly in calculus and physics, where I was second highest in high school in my calculus and physics. English was never good, 50% or less. But when it came to the sciences, I loved them. But I got slaughtered trying to think that I could get through first year university without ever having to study before. I got those marks not by studying, just by understanding. So March 1980, I saw my marks had plummeted. My midterm exams were extremely bad. I had 23% in calculus, where I should have been at 80 at least. And so everything was pretty bad. And God got a hold of me through the Navigators. Really neat program. I didn't go in to watch this special presentation to see about Christianity. I went into the room to see this because they had this awesome stereo equipment and high power amplifiers and 15 slide projectors. And, technically this was heaven. So I went to see that, and God got a hold of me that evening. And I started praying like I've never prayed before. I wanted to go on for engineering, but I never got, and I had 59.5% at the end of the year. I did pull up my marks, but they were still not good enough. I needed 60 to go on. So they just told me, take a year off and come back. I never came back. That's what I've been doing for 45 years, is electronic development and design and engineering and all kinds of things. So that's where I was. And when God got a hold of me, very first thing, I've started reading the Bible, like getting it in heavy duty. And one of the things right off the bat, I told the guy, I says, look, either the Bible's correct or evolution is correct. The two don't mix, and he says, well, they don't, like, believe the Bible and, and start checking the stuff out. And he told, one of the key things was the vapor canopy theory, David, where it says in Genesis 1:6, it says, he separated the waters from the waters and called the space sky. And so that's called the vapor canopy theory. And dinosaurs lived because of that. And there's all sorts of beautiful, long life is possible through the filtering of the sun with that upper layer of water. I understand all the science of it now, but I didn't at the time. So roll it back to about 17 years ago, when I first learned that this powerful light on my back could get rid of pain. I wanted to do it with LEDs, but at that time, the LEDs were extremely expensive. We're talking $70 an LED. So that device in your hand would have been, $10,000. So there's no way nobody afford to buy that, kind of thing at that time. So I was trying to figure out how to do it better, not better, somehow with light. And one morning, I was in the shower. Now you can label me as crazy, David. But I was in the shower, and I specifically heard, have you thought of the vapor canopy theory? And I thought, hey, what if I could put a layer of water in front of the bulb? What would it do? What could would it get rid of? Would it filter the light somehow? And I stole that morning. I stole two of my wife's lasagna dishes, and I put them back to back, and I put a little silicone around it and filled the part way up with water. And when I put the light shining through the two layers of glass, it was burning hot. But when I lowered it down where the light had to shine through a quarter of an inch of water, no heat. Burning hot, no heat. Burning hot, no heat. It filters all of the far infrared out perfectly that would normally heat up the water in your skin. So it's like a perfect filter. And I did that day, and then I started building bigger and bigger. I built the big bed, the chair that I have to treat myself. I ended up with that technology. I got patents on it. we were able to save people's legs with diabetic foot ulcers, help them to heal so they wouldn't have amputation, right up to chronic pain, getting rid of chronic pain of all kinds with that technology. I called it the Genesis Health Light. And since then, I've got the new SunPower LED, which uses LEDs. But that's how I believe, I believe scripture is very, very accurate, and it's not from cover to cover. And when it comes to even like Malachi 4:2, where it says the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its rays, the sun having healing in its rays. Okay. Now, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, is the one that has healing. But how did I picked up on somebody? I think it was it was Chuck Swindoll who had said about he did elaborated on this whole thing of the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. It's fascinating. But the woman with the issue of blood reached out and touched the hem of the garment because she had faith that if she just touched the extent of the garment, which is called the rays of the garment, she could get healed.
So I'm going to throw out one more at you because maybe it's because of my age and those around me, and of course those that I've always looked up to. A lot of people are dealing with the big issue is dementia.
Right.
Is there any way that what you've invented can help?
Absolutely. So there's research on dementia as far as with light therapy, and again, it comes back to having enough power to do the job the best. Not saying that there isn't some devices that have caused some improvement, but we've had one of the fellows that's on one of my YouTube had a YouTube channel had Lewy body dementia. And it was getting pretty rough. They needed 24/7 care. He was forgetting everything, couldn't remember any names, had to be under his supervision for nighttime because he'd just take off and all that stuff. And he couldn't put sentences together anymore. And he was a mentor of mine. And I kind of lost contact because, age difference. He's 25 years senior to myself, and I was no longer working with him closely. So, lost that contact. Then I found out he had just gotten out of the hospital because of a rough episode. And so he was back home, and I know his wife extremely well. And I says, look, use this helmet on his skull, and I believe it'll help him. And about 2.5 months later, I had him on my webinar, and he couldn't put sentences together. And the very first thing he says, well, this light technology is so easy to use, and the light can penetrate into the skull. And, I've been able to see this and this happen. And he goes on for like 4 or 5 sentences in a row. I mean, going back to his salesman days kind of thing in his mode, and his wife said that he definitely has improved. Now he's lost some ground on some areas, but he over time, this is now over a year and a half ago, but he's also there's crazy parts is he's improved on other things. So definitely within a very short period of time. So dementia, we had Parkinson's as another real bad one. And one guy was falling every day, multiple times per day. And with the very first treatment, he no longer was falling. And then one of the other fellows was able to, they asked the people with Parkinson's to draw the old analog clock with the hands on it. And the worse the Parkinson's is, the worse that clock comes out, to the point where you can't tell it is a clock anymore. They might draw something, but it's not, you can't tell it's a clock. He's been able to not only regain, one of the guys has not only been able to regain being able to draw that clock, but also tell the time on the clock. Another guy was an accountant, and he couldn't do anything with his math skills, and was able to calculate the tip when they went out to eat. So this is what you should give the waitress. So there's some coming back from that situation and returning some life back to people. So that happens for the brain, as well as people in severe pain can start moving again. And when they start moving, then they can start walking. And then they can start walking, they get more air. And once they get more air, it's all in the right direction, as opposed to going the wrong direction and ending up in a bed. So it's possible for all different kinds of brains problems, concussions, severe concussions that we've had where we've been able to see improvement with. So, and our product is starting to get into some areas in sports, but it's a very slow go to get it into the sports. There's a lot of gatekeepers.
So Tom, we're gonna wrap it up here in a second, but I would just, is there a way? I mean, this is probably something I should have discussed before we did this, but is there a way that folks that are watching this right now can send an email to your office and say, "Hey, look, this is my issue. Will your product help?"
Right. So they can, easy enough is just to grab the main email, which is info@sunpowerled.com. So info@sunpowerled.com. That's the easiest way there. And the other thing is to go on the YouTube channel and just do a search. What about arthritis? And you'll find, to see some real people telling you about their situation, arthritis. If you want, some dental problems, well, what about dentistry? Well, I've got dentists that I've got a podcast every Tuesday night. That's another thing people should tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Just go to my website prior to the event. You can actually catch it even if you're a little late, but go to my website and there'll be a link to watch tonight's webinar.
And what's your website? What's your website?
SunPowerLED.com.
SunPowerLED.com.
You have to put LED in the end. If you just put sun power, you'll get a whole pile of solar panels for your house. Okay. You don't need the solar panels. Sun Power LED, and that's for the health side of things. And, like we've had people with long COVID really help them in their situations, including one of the talk show hosts on one of the Christian radio stations. Like myself, he had really bad double lung pneumonia. And in his case, he used the very light that you did for his lungs. And he was on an oxygen bottle. And when I called him, I talked to his son first, and then he connected the dots and I talked to him, and I said, "Look, use this on your lungs." And I got one into his hands just like I did for you. And within a few days, he was off his oxygen bottle. And within about 2 weeks, he returned back to work after having severe double lung pneumonia, and his oxygen levels was at 80. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking to you today because I used the light therapy on my lungs when I had double lung pneumonia, and my oxygen level was 80% as well. And the funny part was, when I went into Emerge, they actually got mad because I didn't see the science behind the shot in this case. And so I there was no research at the time that I could find. So anyways, the doctor got extremely mad at me that I didn't do that. And after they did all the analysis, they said, "You got really bad double lung pneumonia. Here, go home. Here's a script for some antibiotics. If you get any worse, come back in." And I that was the best thing that happened, because if I would have stayed in the hospital, I might not be talking to you today. But I went home, and my wife was the nurse pretty much, and we used the light front and back on my lungs. And within 2.5 weeks, I started coughing all of a sudden, really, really bad. My oxygen levels were coming up, and I was in the low 90s, but I started coughing so bad, I didn't realize that my lungs were clearing up. And when I went back to Emerge, because I thought I'm definitely getting worse. That's what was going through my mind. But when they did the X-rays, they said, and all the other tests, they said, your blood is good, your heart's good, but your lungs are exceptional. They compared the x-rays from 2.5 weeks earlier, and they said your lungs are exceptional. Now, why they didn't want to implement that for all the other people that were having trouble with their lungs, and there's another story, another podcast sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're going to check back. We're going to check back in with you in a few weeks, and I can't wait to hear some stories of folks who are listening, who subscribe here, and also listen to the radio show, because I know we're going to have quite a number after this. But hey, listen, I just want to thank you for sharing your product, your mind, your inventions with us. I mean, this is definitely a game changer. It'll give a lot of people. It'll give their lives back. I mean, to be able to use this. I mean, all I can tell you is the other day when I had that little fall that I had, and I went to bed, and I'm like, man, this is not going to be good when I wake up. And I woke up, and it was pretty real bad. It was, it was raw. I mean, it just felt so painful. And I put that thing on there, this light that you sent me here. I put that on there, and I'm telling you, within 15 minutes, I could tell a huge difference. And after using it twice over the next day, it was just absolutely amazing. I didn't feel the pain at all.
Yeah, no, I believe you. And look at this is one of the bigger lights. This is the panel. And the host the talk show host, when I turned it on, he says, man, I think you can see that thing from the space station if you hold it up from the light. I'll hold it up to the window, but that's what I used on my lungs, front and back. And that's why I'm here today. I strongly believe that the light, we've been able to take even people with different lung issues, and they noticed immediate effects like asthma or COPD on the breathing ability. So light can go into the body anywhere with the right amount of power. And I think we can help a lot of people. And I really believe that God laid it on my heart that this is for the healing of the nations. This is not just for the rich few. So God's got to work that all through, how that's going to happen. But I truly believe He's given me a reason and what we're supposed to do. And I've got a team of people now that are all working together to see this, I think, explode. We got products around the world now with this technology.
Okay, Tom. Well, thank you so much, my friend. We'll be checking back with you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. All the best. Thank you.
I just love this little gadget. It has, I'm telling you, it's brought me great relief. And hey, I want to thank Tom once again for doing this. And for those of you who have stuck around and watched this episode, I have something so very special for you. If you head on over to SunPowerLED.com right now and use the promo code FAITH, that's FAITH, F-A-I-T-H, you will get a 10% off of SunPowerLED's products. That's right. You pick your product, you put in the promo code FAITH, you get 10% off. And this is just an incredible invention. Well, there you have it. SunPowerLED.com. Start your healing today. And don't forget to use that promo code FAITH. This has been CIA, Contagious Influencers of America, from the producers of Keep the Faith, the #1 faith-based syndicated show in all of America. We're in Canada too. Thank you for watching today, and I want to encourage you to check out KeepTheFaith.com. That's our main website where you're going to see all kinds of wonderful goodies that you can play, and we're loading in new content there all the time. That's at KeepTheFaith.com. And if you'd like to check out all of our episodes of CIA, Contagious Influencers of America, simply go to ContagiousInfluencers.com. Please do rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. That really helps us out a lot. Give us 5 stars if you can. That would be really, really nice of you. Until next time, I'm David Sams. Go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living in black and white. We'll see you next time.